Hello and welcome in our YouTube channel Metallurgical Facts. We got excellent feedback for our previous videos. I hope you watched those videos. So this is the third part of this series, RINL Vizag Management Trainee MT Exam 2020. We are doing practice of metallurgical questions. We are doing the only metallurgical part. Okay, so non-core part you have to take by your own. Okay, so if you did not watch our previous videos, I request you to watch those videos for brushing up your knowledge. And by these videos, these are very basic videos. The questions are not new, but this will be very effective for your revision purpose. Okay, so for revision you can watch those videos too. The first question is the elastic energy of unit length of an edge dislocation as compared to that of screw dislocation. Okay, so they are talking about the edge dislocation and screw dislocation. Basically, in this question, they have asked about elastic strain energy. So we must know about the elastic strain energy. What is the elastic strain energy for edge dislocation as well as in screw dislocation? Okay, until we don't know the formula for this elastic strain energy for the edge dislocation and screw dislocation, we cannot compare these values. So these are the four options. The A option is more, B option is equal, C less, D double. Okay, so the elastic energy, we will write elastic energy per unit length. This is per unit length for screw dislocation. Okay, so this is for screw dislocation, that is GB square by 4 pi ln r by r naught. So this is the elastic strain energy for screw dislocation, and this is elastic strain energy for edge dislocation, that is GB square by 4 pi 1 minus nu. Here nu is the Poisson ratio. Okay, so this is the Poisson's ratio, um, an external term in this elastic strain energy of edge dislocation. Okay, so ln of r by r naught. So here we can compare these both formula, that we see that this 1 minus new part is, that is 1 by 1 minus new part is an extra part in this edge dislocation part. Okay, so this new value, we know this value is for most of the material, this value ranging 0.05 to 0.5. So this value will be in fraction. So whenever we will divide this value by this term, we will get some more values in comparison to this. Okay, so this is the same term written as this one. Okay, so 1 minus nu is extra term, and this will give more value than than elastic energy of screw dislocation. So the option for this question is right answer is more. The elastic energy of a unit length of an edge dislocation as compared to that of screw dislocation is more. Okay, so A is the correct option for this question. So the next question is, which one of the following process is performed for inclusion modification in ladle metallurgy of steel making? Okay, so inclusion modification, they are asking about inclusion modification in ladle metallurgy of steel making. So this is the big part, ladle metallurgy of steel making. We will do this part whenever we will do the iron steel making. Okay, so for now we will see which option is correct for this question. So first option is aluminum wire injection, the second option is calcium wire injection, C third option is oxygen top blowing, D is oxygen bottom blowing. Okay, so first we will see these two options. These are actually oxygen blowing system, that is top by the top method or by the top or bottom. Okay, so this is used in BOF for BOF or other furnaces for oxygen injection. Okay, so for oxygen injection purpose we use top blowing and bottom blowing. Okay, so this is basically is the part of refining, in the part of refining. Okay, refining of steel. So the option remaining is A and B part. Okay, so aluminum wire injection, we all know this aluminum wire injection is done basically for the deoxidation purpose. Okay, for deoxidation purpose, because whenever we inject aluminum wire, that will react with oxygen and they produce some oxides. Okay, so this is also not correct. So calcium wire injection, the main purpose of the calcium wire injection is for inclusion modification. So calcium wire injection basically modify the inclusions, and this is also done for the deoxidation purpose, but the main purpose of adding calcium wire injection is inclusion modification in ladle metallurgy of steel making. So correct option for this question is B part, that is calcium wire injection. So the next question is, calculate the number of grains per square inch if a steel has ASTM grain size number 7. So we will see what is the number of grains per square inch in this question and what is the ASTM grain size number means. Okay, so for this type of question I use only one formula, that is m by 100 whole square multiplied by n is equals to the power n minus 1. Okay, so what is this m value? M is here, m is magnification. Okay, so this m is magnification, and this n is number of grains per square inch. So the unit for this value is number of grains per square inch. Okay, and this n is ASTM grain size. This n is ASTM grain size. So don't be confused with both the n. So the smaller one is uh, small n is ASTM grain size, and the capital N is number of grains per square inch. Okay, so uh, for this question we will see how to approach this type of questions. Okay, so whenever in this type of question the magnification is not given, we will take m value as 1 for the solution purpose. Okay, so in this question we are not given magnification, so we will take m value is equals to 1. So 1 by 100 whole square, we need to find n value. Okay, so n to the power 7 minus 1. So from here we will get the value, that is to the power 7 means to the power 6 multiplied by that 10 to the power 4. Okay, so we will get that is 64. 64. Okay, so this value, that will come in 64,000 per square inch. Okay, so we calculated in per square inch. Sometimes they change the value, that is they change the unit, that is per square inch. Instead of per square inch they asked in per square. Okay, so how to approach for that question? We will do uh, if, till here. Okay, 64,000 per inch square. Now what we will do, as 1 inch is equals to 25 mm. Okay, so 1 inch square will be 6645 mm square. Okay, so we will get 1 inch square is equals to 645 mm square. So for that type of question we will do till here, and after that we will what we will do, we will divide this value by, we will divide this value by 645 for changing the unit in mm square. Okay, so that will come in per square. Sometimes I see people use for per inch square this formula, and for per square they use another formula, but we need not to use the different formula for the different units. Okay, so we can change any unit from here. So 1 inch is equals to 25 if they will ask in centimeter, if they will ask in nanometers, we can change easily from here, and we can divide this value by this much value, that is 645 square. So we need to change in square, that's why we divided by 645. Okay, sometimes what we get, that they will ask like that. Okay, this is the number of grains per square inch. So sometimes they can ask the average number of grains. Okay, sorry, average area of that grain. Okay, for average, so for finding the average area of that grain in inch square, so we get suppose we get 6440 inch per inch square. So if we will reverse this value, that is 644, so we will get uh, this 0 point this 0.000, that 50, I think 50265 in inches squares. Okay, so what is this value denote? This value says that this is the area of 1 grain. Okay, so this value is area of 1 grain. So we have learned three things from this question, that one, we will find this value whenever they will not give the magnification, we will take this value as 1. If they will give the magnification 100 to 100, we will change this value accordingly. Okay, so the second thing is we will calculate in square per inch every time, and then we will convert in the unit whatever they will ask in. Okay, so we can easily change the units by using this formula. And for the third thing is we learned that how to calculate the area of 1 grain. So whatever we will get n value, we can reverse this value. Okay, so if we will able to calculate 1 by n, that will be the area of 1 grain. Okay, so the answer of this question will be, for now the answer of this question will be 64 thousandths per square inch. So the next question is, which one of the following can avoid weld decay of austenitic stainless steel? Okay, so weld decay is a problem for stainless steel, austenitic stainless steel. Okay, so this is also known as intergranular corrosion or problem during the intergranular corrosion. So options are given, that is A part is reducing carbon content, B part is increasing carbon content, C part is eliminating strong carbide formers, D part is decreasing chromium content. Okay, so for this question we will see what can reduce this type of problem, or what can avoid the weld decay of austenitic stainless steel. How we can avoid the stainless, how we can avoid the weld decay of stainless steel. Okay, so first point is the carbon percentage. Okay, so if we will able to reduce this carbon percentage, we will reduce by reducing the carbon level in austenitic stainless steel up to 0.05%, we can avoid this phenomena. Okay, so the next is, there is only three way for avoiding the weld decay of austenitic stainless steel. Okay, so first one is the carbon percentage. So if we will able to reduce the carbon percentage, we can avoid the weld decay. So the next thing is by quenching. Okay, by quenching of austenitic stainless steel or stainless steel, by quenching of the stainless steel from a high temperature, the from a high temperature to prevent the chromium carbide formation. Okay, so if we will able, anyhow we will able to prevent this carbide precipitation formation, so this will also avoid the weld decay. So by quenching the stainless steel from a high enough temperature to prevent chromium carbide, we can avoid weld decay. So the third one is, by adding, by adding oh sorry by adding carbide formers. Okay, so what are the carbide formers? So basically these are the niobium and titanium in this type of steels. Okay, so by adding the strong carbide forming elements to the steels such as niobium and titanium, so that carbon that will react to this niobium and titanium, and they will form a carbide of that elements. And by forming the titanium and niobium carbide, they will not form the much chromium carbide. Okay, so by that way we can avoid belt decay of austenitic stainless also. So now we will see the options. So reducing the carbon content. Okay, so this option is correct for this question. Reducing the carbon content can avoid the weld decay. We already see the explanation for this part. Okay, increasing the carbon content, this option doesn't make any sense because reducing is already correct. Eliminating strong carbide formers, we cannot eliminate a strong carbide formers for avoiding the weld decay, because in the third part we already told that by adding the carbide formers we can prevent the weld decay. So the D part is decreasing chromium content. This is also not correct. Okay, so we cannot decrease the chromium content up to the certain level in stainless steel. Okay, so the correct option for this question is A part. Reducing the carbon content can avoid well decay of austenitic stainless steel. So the next question is of matching type question. So here we have given a group 1, that is in group A they have given that uh, this is the group A. Okay, so this is group A. They are given that anode effect, Q is formation of scaffolds, R is formation of white metal, S is classification. In group B they have given that copper extraction, blast furnace, hydrocyclone, aluminum extraction. Okay, so I already told you that as soon as you will see the matching type of questions, don't directly jump into the options. Okay, so every time whenever we will do by that route, there is a chance to do silly mistakes. Okay, so first we will write P, Q, R, S, and we will try to generate our own code through this PQRS values. Okay, so I have told you already in two videos that for doing matching we need to identify one of the odd things or the common things from group A or group B. Okay, so we know this blast furnace, but we don't know what we can match from this type, this side. Okay, so we know the Cu extraction, copper extraction, so we don't know how which one is correct from group A to match this copper extraction. Also aluminum extraction we also know, hydrocyclones we know. So hydrocyclone is something different, which is uh, which is given here. Okay, so hydrocyclones means this is used in classification process. This is basically the ore dressing part, and this is the ore dressing part. So hydrocyclones, so S we can match S by 3. So we write like that, S 3. So by this we can eliminate option A and option B because S doesn't have 3. Okay, so now we have two options, that is C option and D option. So now we know the aluminum extraction. In the aluminum extraction the anode effect phenomena occurs. So P we can match by 4. So now 4 and 3 we know. P in C part also P they matched by 4, and in D part P they matched by 4. Okay, so we cannot identify the option which one is correct. Okay, so from Q and R we have to choose which one is correct. Okay, so now I will tell that formation of scaffold in basically is the irregularity of the blast furnace. Okay, so we can match Q by 2, and formation of white metal is in copper extraction. Okay, so what is the white metal? White metal is basically Cu2s. Cu2 is copper sulfide. That is because of appearance, that is known as white metal. Okay, so now we will see 4213. Okay, 4213 is the correct option, uh, correct code. Okay, so 4213, so option C is correct for this question. Now we will see the explanation of these four, that is anode effect, formation of scaffolds, formation of white metal, and classification process. Okay, so first we will see the anode effects. So what is anode effect? This is the characteristics phenomena in molten salts, especially in aluminium. Those who belongs to the aluminium plants, or those who have visited the aluminium plants, they must have seen that this phenomena. Okay, so especially in aluminium, when it occurs, many small electrical sparks appear on the anode, and cell voltage suddenly decreased. So in this type of effect, the voltage of cell decrease suddenly. Okay, so for improving this, for maintaining this voltage, we add the sufficient alumina to maintain the voltage. Okay, so how we can prevent the anode effect? By adding the sufficient alumina. Okay, so this is basically related to the aluminum extraction. The second one is formation of scaffolds. Okay, scaffold is basically the irregularity of blast furnace. We have seen irregularity of blast furnace in video part 2 of RINL Vizag Management Trainee Exam 2020. Okay, so when scaps that build up on the furnace wall, scaps build up on furnace walls and cause a decrease in cross section area. Okay, so whenever the caps that will start building up at the furnace wall, the area of the wall will decrease. Okay, cross sectional area of the stack of the blast furnace will decrease, so that is known as scaffolding. Okay, so the scaffolding is related to the blast furnace. So the next one is formation of white metal. Okay, so white metal is basically Cu2s during the production of copper or extraction of copper. We will see in details, but here we will see in short that Cu2s, because of its appearance, it is known as white metal also. Okay, so from this Cu2s, uh, by the oxidation of Cu2s, we get the uh, we get blister copper. You must have seen you must have heard about the blister copper. We get this that blister copper by this white metal only. Okay, so this is the classification. Next, last one is the classification. Okay, so the classification or sorting is a, a process by which we separate the mixtures of the minerals or two or more particles on the basis of velocity. Okay, so there are many routes by which we do the classification. So this is a hydrocyclone, which is hydrocyclone is one of the classification process by which we separate the mixtures of the two minerals on the basis of velocity at which the particle will fall on in the fluid medium. Okay, so this is known as hydrocyclone. So the correct option for this question is C part. So the next question is X-ray radiography is used to determine the. So this question is related to the X-ray radiography. So whenever we have posted this question on our Facebook and our Instagram page, we have seen that many people choose the wrong option for this type of question. Okay, as soon as they will see the X-ray, they will choose the option crystal structure for this question. Okay, so here we can see this X-ray radiography is basically the NDT techniques. NDT techniques we will see in detail whenever we will do the NDT part, non-destructive testing, in one video. Okay, so this X-ray radiography is used to determine the first option is crystal structure, B is a chemical composition, C is phase present, D is soundness of casting. Okay, so this crystal structure we can identify the XRD, that is X-ray diffraction. Chemical compositions we can find with by using the XRD XRF. Okay, so X-ray fluorescence can be used for the elemental composition of or chemical composition of the material. Okay, and phase present we can identify phase present by the XRD. So the last option is soundness of casting. So soundness of casting can be determined by using the radiography technique, which is basically the NDT technique. So for measuring the soundness of casting, we use NDT technique, that is X-ray radiography. So the correct option for this question is D part, that is soundness of casting. So the next question is the Miller indices of fifth reflection in FCC crystal structure. So in first video, I have already told about the diamond cubic, and in this question, we have chosen the fifth reflection in an FCC crystal structure. Okay, so why we are choosing this type of question? Because from this question, we can remind our the extension rules for the reflection, and also uh, this is the questions where we do the silly mistakes. That's why we are choosing this type of questions again and again. However, this is very easy question. Okay, so we know the h square plus k square plus l square ratio, that is 3 is to 3 is to 4 is to 8 is to 11 is to 12 is to 16 for this is for FCC crystal structure. Okay, so this is the h square plus k square plus l square ratio for FCC. So now here we can see this is the first reflection, that is 111 Miller indices. This is the second reflection, that is 200. This is the third one, that is 220. This is fourth one, that is 2 sorry, this is 220, that is this is the third this is the fourth one, that is 11311. Okay, and this is fifth one, that is 12, that is 222. Okay, so the option for this question is correct option for this question is 222. Okay, so the Miller indices of the fifth reflection in FCC structure is 222, because we know the h square plus k square plus l square ratio. So whenever we will see this type of question, we will write h square plus k square plus l square value like this, and then we will change into the Miller indices or planes. Then we will identify that which one is the correct option for this type of question. Okay, so the B part is correct for this question. Thank you guys for your attention. Hope you guys have learned something new in this video, and we will try to add more and more videos if we will get positive response and valuable feedback from your side. Okay, so please give us feedback in comment section, and subscribe our channel and press bell icon to get notifications for upcoming videos.